Hi there, welcome to Colour Me Intrigued.
Hi there, guys. How are we today? So sorry for the delay, guys. We actually recorded this entire episode last week, and none of the audio recorded. It was honestly biggest setback yet for Colour Me Intrigued, but here we are again.
You know what we do with those setbacks?
We chew them up and we spit them out harder than ever.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. Anyway, so also the delay has been Nathan is now a father, guys. Whoop, whoop. Congrats, dude.
Cheers, man.
And very happily to be a father, I imagine.
Yeah, of course. So my biggest frustration so far with the last sort of few weeks has been with Spotify.
Why?
Now fuck Spotify.
Not the lack of sleep, it's just Spotify.
No, Spotify. They pissed me off.
What have they done?
So I don't know if this is a new update or it's how recent it is now.
Yeah.
But to add a song to a playlist on Spotify, it's just fucking ridiculous.
What happens now?
So before you just find the song or find the album and you just add songs. That's it.
Yeah.
Now you have to go onto your playlist. You have to do the 3 dots at the top.
Oh god.
And then you've got to add. So it's pointless.
Oh man. Okay.
Really
I feel
frustrating.
for you. I feel for you. That
Don't
sucks.
like it at all. But first world problem.
I also had it with Spotify where you have to. They used to have like a search bar at the top of your playlist where you could literally just go to the top of the playlist, search for the song you wanted. Now you have to go into the 3 dots, which is where you have to do your thing, and
So annoying.
find in playlist and do it. And I mean, first world problems, yes.
Especially if you want to add like a whole album of tracks, like you have to go through and add each individual song.
Fuck your ideas at Spotify.
Come on, Spotify, what are you doing?
We all use it as well, so it's just one of those things.
Yeah, don't be dicks. Come on, Spotify, we pay for this shit.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, guys. What do you do? I've got a family plan, so I don't have to pay for it, really.
Well done you, mate.
I know, it's like you and your fucking Odeon card.
It's Cineworld.
Oh, sorry.
And if anyone from Cineworld is watching or listening and they want to, give me some free sponsorship, I mean,
yeah, we're looking for some endorsements.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. Cineworld is the best. They do the best popcorn, and it's cheap.
I'll be honest, dude. I know
chips.
we're trying to rake in some money here, but it's not the best. It's just not.
Shut up. Anyway, so
what have we been watching?
well, I've currently, in the last sort of week or so, watched the Netflix mockumentary film spectacular that is The Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma. Yes, I also watched this. What did you make of it? What are your takeaways?
I couldn't feel any stronger about like a documentary and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really interesting, very intriguing, and
Nice.
it just really sort of epitomises the generation that we live in.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. Completely. So
really, it was really, really interesting take, and it's all done. So it stars all of the people that have kind of had jobs within this industry, which is obviously really, really, you're hearing from these people.
yeah, it's like
that have worked there.
CTOs and people that have like had to monetize Facebook, things like that.
So these people have worked for Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, I think they had one of the guys that invented the Facebook like button.
That was it, yeah.
Which I can't even remember how far back that was.
That's going back at
I remember
12
Facebook
years?
without it, but I don't remember like when it came about.
No,
do you know
I
what mean?
agree.
But yeah, like it's just that to me is mad. So they got all these people on and they start interviewing them and they're talking to them about the effects of social media. And there's so many good things that can come out of it, and that's what they really, really tried to put across to you sort of straight away is so many good things. You can find long lost relatives. You can help out with charities and stuff.
You can
like
find groups of things that you're passionate about and find other like-minded people.
If you're lonely, you can try and find someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's what they really, really try and sort of put across to you straight away, which I think is really, really good. And I understand that, and social media can be used in that really, really good way.
Yeah.
But then also on the flip side of that, they really sort of hammer home to you, right? There are actually like some dark sides to this.
Yes.
And how did you make of the dark sides?
Oh, it's so scary, wasn't it? I mean, they mirror everything they're talking about so well because they've got that kind of mock family that's going through. I mean, the older sibling really wants to get rid of social media within their family because she can see her younger sister just completely being obsessed by this want for approval, continual approval, and posting these pictures. And you know, I think you see her crying at one point.
Some really, really harrowing stuff, especially with, you know, if you look at sort of younger generations and how they use their social media. You know, the harrowing stuff with her was definitely like she's posting pictures online and she's avidly just waiting there, refreshing the page, waiting for the likes to stream in on these photos.
The approval.
Yeah, the approval to get, and like these guys saying they're talking about the dopamine hit.
Yes.
And that's obviously where you get that little rush when you get a like or something like
that.
And this girl just completely changes, you know, so many things just based on that.
Yeah.
You know, so she puts up one photo, only gets a couple of likes in a certain amount of time, so she deletes it.
That's it, yeah.
And then she puts up another one and she's pulling a funnier face or something like that. It starts to get loads of likes and comments and stuff.
Yeah.
But someone points out that like her ears are sticking out, and then after that she's really obsessed,
mortified.
And she has to kind of like cover them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She feels really, really bad about that. And that to me is just, that's mad.
It's so relevant. I mean, you see it happen all the way. Like even just the face she pulls, that kind of like the duck face.
Yeah.
You see it all the time, and I think for me, I'm very appreciative that we grew up in a time where we didn't have it like immediately thrown into our lives, thrust into our lives from like age. I guess people are giving phones to their sons and daughters at like 15, 16, maybe earlier, 14, 13, and that's going to be a part of it. Like apparently in that country they've got only Facebook installed immediately onto their phone when they sell people these phones. So immediately people are finding like cults and clans to be part of through that because they have no idea like how to protect themselves against this.
It's just mad. I couldn't believe at some of the things that they were talking about. You know, they're talking about suicide rates with teenage girls.
Oh my god,
or even pre-teen girls.
Yeah.
And you see, I think with the pre-teens, so that's like I think from the age of 10 to 13, and they're talking about is the suicide rate's gone up by like 100%.
Yeah, it's like 80% for preteens, or was it more for preteens?
There's more for preteens.
It's like 150%, and the
other
was like 80. It was such a lot.
The teenage girls had gone up by like a staggering amount, like 60, 70, 80%. But it was the preteen girls, and that for me is quite worrying because that means that a lot of these younger girls or younger guys, they're getting into social media and that kind of stuff really early, and then it's really affecting their psyche.
Definitely.
And that's kind of what they're really trying to sort of address in this documentary.
There's that quote, isn't there? That there's only two industries that call their customers users, and that's drugs and that's social media. And actually, that's why I think it's happening. I think you just get these people that are so obsessed now because we're not. I mean, this is another point entirely, but we're not evolved to know how to cope with thousands of people's approval or disapproval. So we're still the same people, but we have no kind of, protection against this.
Yeah, definitely. But it's just, it's just really, really worrying at the things that they're talking about. For me, what really, really hit home was when they started talking about democracies and governments and stuff like that. So I remember, not vividly, but I remember quite well the last election that we had.
Yeah. And
I remember just, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on all my social media, I just remember being really, really pro to one side.
Yeah.
And then, I was just kind of like, up to the running of the election, I was like, oh, I really think there could be change in the world.
We really were all feeling it. Yeah.
I really feel like there's, going to be some seismic changes in this country.
Feel the same. Yeah.
And then when I voted the way that I thought would be good for the country and stuff like that. And then you just see the election results come in the evening. And you're like, what?
You go, how? That's impossible.
Everything that I've seen on the news and social media, on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, like that's what I've seen.
That's it.
It's going to go the way that I voted.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not. Like that's
this
you're
is
so
true.
this is what they try and say to you. You're only seeing a little chasm
Yes.
of what is really happening, and it's really really interesting to see how the what's it called, the algorithms, how the algorithms.
Oh, wasn't that great the way that was depicted?
Yeah. So how they work, and they're basically trying to say to you that, okay, you might have 1,000 friends on Facebook, but how many of those people's posts you actually see?
Yeah.
That's sort of what they're trying to hammer home to you.
It hones in on the ones that it thinks you will approve of, or similar mindsets, things like that. So that's why out of your 1,000 friends, you maybe see a good 20 people.
Yeah, maybe you only see about 20 people's posts because it's people that you regularly talk to.
Yeah.
Or it might be people that you've got loads and loads in common with, or it might just be people that when you're scrolling through, and this was the worrying bit, when you're scrolling through Facebook, maybe you linger on a post.
Yeah.
Maybe you actually fully read a post, and then that's how they hit you with the, oh, okay, well, last time so-and-so was on Facebook, they were on this person's post for an extra 5 seconds as to what they were with someone else's, so we need to make sure that they see their post. And it's that, to me, is just crazy.
Yeah.
How much power, one small app could have on your smartphone. The fact that you could just linger on something,
yes,
and then that registers, and then that goes into an algorithm, and the next time that person's post, it's going to come to the top of your timeline.
Yeah,
it's mad.
I think that was something
crazy.
That we didn't realise. I think a lot of people think that when they do that refresh of their feed, that is like a randomised button, and it's something that he said that they wanted to be a part of the app, that kind of gambler's psyche. Thinking, oh, but if I refresh this, something else will come up. So it also means that no matter how long you spend on there, there's always something new coming up. And I think we all had this reaction when we watched this documentary, when you can see just the training of the algorithm on different, like as you're scrolling, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like counting your seconds on everything. Yeah. He goes, they are watching. They're watching everything you do. It's not a person though. It's a computer registering every little split second. How long did you look? What did you like? Whose posts are you attracted to? And suddenly you realise, like, there's no random part of this. This is all kind of trained to make sure that it's as addictive as possible.
Yeah.
And this guy comes into Google, doesn't he? And he gives a presentation about, was he working on Gmail at the time? It's like,
yeah, so they said that they were working on Gmail, and they spent quite a lot of time looking at what colours the Gmail
like the design and
the logo,
interface.
How it should look, and what settings and stuff they should give to the user and everything like that.
Yeah.
And they spent hours and hours and hours on that kind of thing, where in actual fact this guy had spent hours of his own time to kind of be like, maybe we should make this a bit more
less addictive.
Yeah, maybe we should help the customers.
Why is no one looking at this? Why is that not a part of our? There should be a department. So he made his own presentation, sent it to a few of his friends, and they all sent it round Google. It went to the CEO 3 times in one day, and then there's this like build up, and he goes, and then nothing happened, and you go, well, I suppose, of course, it's not gonna just happen overnight, because they are only going to think, if you're the CEO, you've got mainly your eye on the budget and the net profit year on year. They're also, for some reason, in our modern day capitalist society, we run on a growth mindset. So every industry feels like they have to go 25% growth, grow 25% growth each quarter, for example. Which didn't used to be the way of doing things. We used to have, like, back in Victoria days, we used to have, like, some businesses would just tick over, and actually that was fine, and nothing terrible happened. People kept their jobs. But nowadays it's like this continual growth that I think is also affecting people like Facebook and Apple, like just becoming the conglomerate giants that they are nowadays. They're huge.
So I think for me, I think there's about 3 big takeaways from this documentary that you can take. The first one is all to do with there needs to be some form of limit, some age restriction on social media.
Oh, for sure.
whether that be sort of like you would have with film restrictions. So obviously in the UK we've got 12, 15 and 18. There needs to be something.
There needs
like
to be actual approval rather than a button that says yes, I'm 18.
Yeah, like maybe like a passport picture or something like that. Like that's, I know that some sites have started using that.
See, this is the thing. We know that that's an option. We know that like the fact that they're like, oh well, we do ask. Like, we know you can do better than that, Facebook.
So yeah, for me, like that's like a massive takeaway. Like I think in the next, definitely in our lifetime, maybe even in the next sort of 15 to 20 years, I think there's going to be a real thing that's going to happen with social media, that there's going to have to be like some form of age restriction.
It's got to be. It's got to be,
because just the way that they frame it and the way that you get spoken to about this, people can't keep dying. Kids can't keep dying at the rates that they do without there being some form of earth-shattering stuff that happens.
Surely, yeah, exactly. And there's also a big takeaway for me is the fact that with this mock family, you see this young lad become more and more. He goes down like a YouTube rabbit hole, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it's all because of the algorithms giving him what he wants to see. He clicks on one video where it's a skewed opinion. It's like I think they go like.
I think it's either far right or far left.
Quite central, very, very central. I think that because that's not really a thing like today. That there's not.
Yeah.
So they kind of do that. He goes down that rabbit hole, and then next thing you know, he's involved in Facebook groups, and they're suggesting ways he can get involved, protests that are happening near him, and ends up at a protest near him where he, gets arrested, doesn't he? He gets tackled by a police officer, and so does his sister. And the thing is, there needs to be something to stop people just only ever thinking their strict mindset, because you see it in America, and it says on it, he's very scared that it's going to end up in a civil war, and I think we can imagine that happening in America right now.
Yeah, I think they show some quite big graphs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they show you that pretty much America's just divided.
It's become more polarized.
Yeah, it used to be. You'd have your far right, you'd have your far left.
Yeah,
but then also there'd be sort of a lot of people that were kind of toing and froing.
Yeah.
Whereas now, that it's really divided.
It's so divisive. And it's because of social media, right?
And countries can become divided, and this is like you said about the Civil War. This is a really, really worrying thing.
Yeah.
And I think people have even turned around and said, like with Facebook, they've got the tools in that small app.
Yeah.
To overthrow like a whole country if they wanted to.
And
they could change people's perceptions and people's thoughts on where they should vote.
Yeah.
And how. And it's entirely possible.
No, and it's happened.
That's crazy.
I mean, there was the documentary last year about Cambridge Analytica, I believe it was called, where they skewed the Brexit vote, and they've skewed the US election as well. So it's actually happened where I think it was Kenya as well, where they forged this plan, this almost marketing scheme, in order to get young people to not vote. They knew if they got the young people to not vote, it would dislodge the election by that few percent that they needed to put this other person in power. Therefore, you've got an entirely different system, different laws. Like the power behind social media has never been more realised than right now, right?
Yeah. So if we take that as another big takeaway, it's mad.
It's unbelievable.
If apps like these can just kind of overthrow countries, can make children turn into fucking suicidal zombies.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Did you see in this? I don't know if you ever saw Mad Men.
Yeah.
But the guy that was playing the algorithm, all three parts of the algorithm. He was in Mad Men, and it kind of said something for his career, I think. But at the same time, he actually did a really good job, because there was like the three different parts of him, and one was kind of like more emo, and the other one was kind of like, oh, I don't care. Yeah. I thought he did really well. Anyway,
I think the way that they framed that was really, really well, though. Just kind of, if you haven't got any understanding of algorithms and computers and everything like that,
it's complex.
My understanding of it is pretty vague anyway.
Yeah, same.
So to have that kind of put out and be like, right, well, this is actually how it works. This is what happens.
This is it.
You will have a person watching what you're doing on your phone, and they will then see what you've been looking at for how long for. They'll look at, you know, videos that you've watched and try and recommend you different ones.
Yeah.
That to me is just, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I really liked the clip of the NBA player where he was like, he literally said out loud that he was a flat earther because, this is quote unquote, because he was in a conference afterwards and just said, sorry I said that, it's because I went down a YouTube wormhole. And it's like, we get it, dude, like we've all done it, but at the same time, like you have to, I think you have to look at what the information you're inputting into yourself, and you have to look at this in a different way. You have to go everything with a pinch of salt, and you have to say, well, this is all going to be of this opinion, so I need to make sure that, I think the guy says his advice was to make sure you always find your video, you don't go for the next related or the recommended videos. Go down, like, don't let yourself fall into that trap, basically. What were the other takeaways? Because there was a couple.
So the big one that I've personally actually done myself is make sure that you haven't got anything vibrating your leg, nothing buzzing in your pocket.
That was a really good
unless
point.
It's a text message or a phone call, which it's probably still like.
I suppose I've been debating that one.
I mean, with that for me, it kind of depends. Like, you build your own phone book on your mobile phone. Yeah. Generally, you'll only get text messages or phone calls
from the people you care about
that you have put in your own phone. So I kind of see that as
I'm kind of okay with that as well.
But with all the apps and stuff like that, I don't think people realise how much notifications you get and what you get notifications for, and how hard it is to actually go through and turn all of that off.
It's so hard.
After I watched the movie,
I
kind of sat there, stared at my phone for a good 5 minutes, and I was like, you know what, I feel like I need to do something about this. I really feel like I need to make a change in myself, and I don't really go on my phone that much anyway, or at least I thought I didn't. And then you pick up your phone. I went to my settings and I went and I had a look at my screen time. It's fairly easy to do. It's under like sort of digital wellness or something like that.
Yeah.
Everyone, I just implore you to do it, and just have a look and kind of just think about how much time you're spending.
It's scary, isn't it?
And just be like, am I happy with that?
Yeah.
Am I really, really happy that I'm spending?
Go on, give us a ballpark.
5 hours. I was obviously, as you said, I was off like a few weeks ago. So ballpark figure, an average in a week was kind of about 4 hours and 15 minutes.
And that in itself is very surprising for you, because
that really surprised me. And I personally was shocked. I was like, fuck no.
Yeah,
that's
such a big portion of your day, isn't it?
It's a really big portion. And then I've spoken to other people, and I've seen figures of like 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours,
half of your waking time.
Like that to me is just maddening.
Come on, guys.
So just have a look at your screen time and see if there's anything that you can do in your own life to just cut that down.
Yeah.
Because you can get lots of interactions through your phone and blah blah blah, but also you can get face-to-face interactions. Yeah. I know,
Take a look outside.
I know in times at the moment it can seem quite hard, with masks and COVID and all this shit.
That's a really good point.
You can still fucking interact with someone. You can still have a conversation from 2 meters.
Look, we're doing it right now. This is how you can
You don't need to have a device like there imprinted on you the whole time. And the other thing as well was with notifications. So I had a look at notifications and I was like, okay, I'm gonna turn them all off and just. I'll only go on the app when when I want to.
And you think this is going to be a simple one-click thing?
So I've done it before. Like, I used to be a manager, and I had you get loads of WhatsApp groups and stuff like that. When I'd go on holiday or I'd have days off, I'd go into the app and I'd turn all the notifications off. I kind of said to myself, at least that way, when I'm off, when I'm away, if there's something that I feel like I'm just going to have a check up. I can just go into the app and I can have a look and I can read the messages and catch up. Yeah. But otherwise, I won't get notified for them. And if there's an emergency, someone can call me or whatever. Yeah. And I kind of saw that in this, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go onto Facebook. I'm just going to turn the notifications off, and then next time I go into the app, whatever's happened on Facebook that I need to get notified for, I can see. Yeah. And I went in there, went into the settings and notifications. It's so fucking hard to do. Yeah. They make it so it's difficult for them not to notify you.
I think I did Instagram, and it was like 8 different things that you have to switch off. It
so
was a long time.
So with Facebook, there was probably about 12 different things that you can get notified for. But also, you can get notified by email, by text message, and by push.
Yeah.
And I literally just went through all of them, and I was like, no, fuck it. You have to go through all of it. But I just did all of it, turned all of it off, and I just kind of said to myself, at least this way, I'm not going to get that kind of, here's a notification. That was one of the worrying things that happened with their little mock family is this boy didn't use his phone for a couple of days.
Oh, yes.
And then he got a little ding on his mobile phone.
This bit was...
And he had a look at it and it was like, your ex-girlfriend is now in a new relationship. And straight away he's like, well, I've got to fucking see you about
Straight
this.
to the heart, doesn't it? Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what they're trying to say to you is, at least if you cut that notification bit out, you'll look at your phone, you'll see the time, and you'll be like, okay, fine, I'll put my phone in my pocket. And then it's just the next time you go into that application, that's when you'll see that information.
So it begs the question, what would be your trigger? Because I thought that was a really interesting idea. It was the algorithm working out different things because, oh crap, we're losing a customer here or a user. And we will now calculate what would work, what will pull you back in. 62% chance of this working. And then it eventually comes up with the algorithm comes up with the idea, the ex-girlfriend, that he's always been...
It's like a 92% chance.
Yeah, he's always been kind of obsessed with her.
They used to get tagged and everything all the time. They've got loads of pictures together, but nothing anymore.
That's a good point. There was the whole bit about tagging yourself in a photo, and apparently that was like immediately a winner for these, like, so for Facebook.
Because then you would get a notification every time you're tagged in a photo.
Yeah.
Or every time that someone comments on that, or every time someone likes that.
Yeah.
And then you'd click on that notification, you'd see the photo, and then you'd press the home button, and then you scroll through Facebook.
It works perfectly. It's like, honestly, And there's also the bit where the guy goes, all we needed to do, a simple strategy to grow our business, get the customer 5 friends within the first 5 days. And he goes, that was it. And it blossoms like that. Yeah. It's like, this was so easy for them. This was so easy. But a lot of it was like, take back the power. I also wanted to comment on what you just said, which is that coronavirus, this is a really good time for this documentary to come out because they've done so well out of it. Have you seen Mark Zuckerberg's net worth? It's skyrocketed, like, just over the last year. And actually, we've all done it. I've witnessed myself do it where, well, I'm not really doing anything. I'm not going outside that much. So therefore, the phone, the laptop, whatever it is, quick look on social media, and you end up doing that, kind of getting lost down the rabbit hole again. So I think, now more than ever, watch this documentary, take away what we have, which was, it's fucking terrifying, guys. It's really scary.
Honestly, if you can find 90 minutes in your day, just please watch this movie.
Just go watch it.
It's really engrossing stuff.
You won't think the same afterwards.
I do realise the irony that we're kind of we're talking about this and we're saying, fuck social media, it's awful.
But watch us on YouTube,
yeah,
please.
But watch us on YouTube and subscribe to us, please.
Subscribe on Spotify.
And I understand that, but this is, we're then trying to use social media in the good way.
Yeah.
We're trying to sort of spread what we're talking about, everything like that, and get
support
other
the
people's
arts.
opinions and stuff.
Support the arts as well. This is the other thing. Like, people like us, we go a long way to get these things out there, and it's just to have your voice heard, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
So,
but honestly, just watch this, please.
Yeah.
And then turn off all your notifications.
Yes. Yeah.
Turn your phone off. Throw it in the bin. go and have a conversation.
Go listen to Colour Me Intrigued.
So, what else have you been watching other than that?
Oh, okay, dude. I watched a really, really good film by. It was have you ever seen Eternal Sunshine?
Yeah.
I know we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And there's another one called Being John Malkovich. Have you heard of that? It's the same writer and director. So he's a screenwriter, and honestly, dude, Charlie Kaufman. Have you heard of his name?
Yeah.
Such a dude. Like, he's so good at these storylines where it's quite like an interesting character study more than anything, but there's also a lot of metaphor, a lot of imagery involved. He's released one called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Have you heard of it?
I have indeed.
You have?
I have also watched this.
Okay, so I'm Thinking of Ending Things. What did you think? What was your first, like... I don't know if we should give it like a quick synopsis.
I mean, I can try, but my
spoilers.
synopsis...
We should go spoilers at this point.
Spoiler heavy.
Yeah.
So my synopsis of this movie would be similar to that of Tenet, and I'd just literally turn around and be like, nope. I got nothing. I honestly got nothing.
It all went over your head.
Yeah,
basically. Okay, let me break this down for you. That's what we're doing. We'll break it down. Okay. At the beginning of the film, you have clips of a young woman who you're led to believe is called Lucy. She's the narrator, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's talking through her own thoughts. She's saying like,
we're hearing all these thoughts in her head.
Yeah, I'm going to see my boyfriend's parents this weekend. I don't know how long I've been going out with him. It seems like it's been quite a while since.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird. So
strange start.
Like, it's a month, maybe 6 weeks.
I kind of chuckled at a point. I was like,
I'll say it's 7.
I was like, well, it's clearly not going that well, is it? If you have no idea.
Yeah.
Then you also see little clips of a janitor. Like, this is how it starts. You're like, well, who the fuck's a janitor? Okay. Gets in the car with... I wish I knew his name. The dude from Breaking Bad.
Dude from Breaking Bad and from the Breaking Bad spin-off thing.
Oh, yeah. And Black Mirror. He was in a Star Trek episode of Black Mirror.
El Camino.
Always has like a kind of menacing...
He plays a bit of a dick.
Yeah, always like someone that you don't trust that much.
He plays a dick.
But he tries to be. He tries to be trustworthy, but he never is. That's his character, like what he gets cast as. She gets in the car with him and you're like, okay, I feel like you could do better, but okay. And then what you have is most of the film is a road trip, isn't it? It's all spent inside the car. They go to the parents' house and strange things start happening, which I thought was, is this like a horror film? Is this a thriller?
Yeah, so
What's happening?
I think that first sort of like half hour or so that they spend in the car, that's kind of where it lost me.
Really, already?
Because all of the dialogue was really kind of wishy-washy and a bit like Tenet, where it's just like, where's this conversation going?
Very dialogue heavy. This whole film, guys, very dialogue heavy.
You know, I should express that I don't mind films like that. I'm happy with sitting and someone listening to talk for an hour. Yeah, that's fine. But this just kind of seemed like they're just talking for the sake of it, and they're talking about nothing. So
they start talking, and I will let you know already, this film is much better once you've seen it a couple of times, because there's a lot going on, and I think you only work stuff out at the end of the film. But when you watch it a second time, you realise that all of the dialogue is aimed towards that ending, which I thought was absolutely spectacularly crafted, actually. So you start realising that every time she says this thing, which is the title of the film, I'm thinking of ending things. You go, wow, that's brutal. She's talking about ending the relationship.
It's really harsh.
Yeah,
she's been with this guy for a few weeks.
A few weeks, and she's saying, I mean, he's lovely, he's nice, but blah 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 blah. Every time she has this series of doubts, he goes, "Did you say something?" Or he interrupts her in some way, and immediately you're thinking, okay, what's going on here? What's the premise?
Yeah, that definitely straight away in the car, the first few times she says it,
yeah,
and then something gets said, you're just like, oh well, can he hear her thoughts? Like,
is he like a mind reader?
Is
That's
this
what
supernatural?
Yeah.
Is this a horror? Where's this going to?
Where is this going? Exactly. And I liked the feeling of like an Eternal Sunshine, where you kind of kept guessing until it really hits you in Eternal Sunshine, which it clearly didn't do in this one, unfortunately.
Not for me. Not
for you, but anyway.
I'm hoping that you can get that penny drop moment.
I'll work towards this. Anyway, so you get to the parents' house finally. There was this great kind of long poem, which I imagine you probably suffered through, where it's actually...
What's it called? Like dog bone or something, isn't it?
Bone dog. I think that's it.
Yeah,
something like that.
Dog bone.
It kind of ruins the poetic emphasis. Anyway, she's basically giving you a warning as Charlie Kaufman, I think, because he gets a lot of his opinion through these two characters out into the world. He gets his opinion of modern cinema out there. He gets his opinion of how he feels like everybody's kind of lost connection, and do we know how to be human anymore? She says at one point. Anyway, she goes through this poem, and she looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and she says, "Everything you see here is bone." And I was like, okay, what does that mean? What exactly are you getting for? Getting. Anyway.
I just kind of went like this. Okay. Just fourth wall break.
Beautiful poem. No, I thought it was a beautiful poem. I wasn't sure about the fourth wall, but she's clearly saying to you, nothing is what it seems.
I like a fourth wall break though.
I love a fourth wall break.
It's quite good, isn't it?
Isn't it great? I think I saw this used really badly actually recently. That it was like I can't remember what series it was, but they were breaking over and over again, but without impact. And I just thought, there's a way of doing this, and it doesn't need to be often in a film. It should be maybe like, just such a surprise for the audience that they're like looking at this. Anyway, they used it well in this one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Get to the house, and it's definitely like really strange as soon as she steps in the door.
Yeah, because he spends a good couple of minutes to be like, "We're here. Hello.
Anyone here?
We're here."
And you've just seen the mum upstairs. that was already weird. She just waves and waves and waves like so enthusiastically. She's like looking up at her like, yeah, she's clearly happy we're here.
When do I stop waving?
And then they go for a little walk, and there's this really horrible feeling. It's like an old farmhouse, isn't it?
Yeah.
This kind of feeling of death and decay. They see these pigs that have been left to rot, and it seems like the dad is very old, it sounds like. And then they finally go into the house, and things really start changing very quickly, don't they? I mean, it becomes kind of like a bad trip in some ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a bit of Get Out.
Oh yeah.
So if I took the car ride and I was a bit like, oh, okay, fine. And then when they get to the parents' house and everything at the parents' house, I was a bit like, this really reminds me of Get Out, and I really loved that movie.
Yeah, great.
And
film.
then it just kind of spiraled off a cliff.
Yeah, because then it goes. I thought at this point it might go down like a horror route.
That's kind of what I was looking for, especially like Toni Collette's performance was
spectacular.
Yeah,
I mean,
she made the being in the house kind of feel threatening.
Yes,
there was a couple of times where there's a few sort of age jumps, and when she goes really younger, and that's when I was really like, whoa.
The parents are moving, like they're moving around the house really strangely because they keep disappearing and reappearing, don't they? For this,
yeah, and the dog as well.
The dog starts shaking.
Yeah, so every time the dog gets mentioned, the dog just appears.
Yeah,
and then it's like it's just gone without a trace.
Oh, okay. I thought that was such a weird scene. That was in the trailer, wasn't it? The dog shaking itself off, and then she looks at it again. It's just not stopping. And going,
yeah.
So what the hell's happening? Anyway, so you see the parents, like, basically, I'll explain what's happening here. You've got the worst case scenario of what it would be like to introduce the girl of your dreams to your parents. So they sit down at the table for this lovely dinner that she's prepared. And the dad's being a bit creepy and not, like, almost just really not handling it well. He's
taking the piss out of her work.
Yeah, taking the piss, or just a bit clueless. Like he says stuff like something about the painting and going, "Well, I can't understand the painting if there's no one in there to see that they're looking at this scene in emotion." And she's there like, "Yeah, I guess so." Then they've got Toni Collette, who is just, you know how mums can be kind of anxious and a bit kind of like overdo it on the motherly love, the kind of Jakey, you're doing so well.
And she's also trying to sort of like sell her son.
Yes,
to the
exactly. He won the award for trying in this at some point, and he's there getting more and more frustrated. So at this point, you might already have gathered that you are in Jake's head. This is all part of being in his head. And
see, I never got that. I never
Did you
got
not?
that impression. No.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because I don't know. I guess because I wasn't sort of fully engrossed by it.
Yeah.
I was just kind of taking everything at face value.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just like, okay, she's talking to me, so I'm in her head. Cool.
I see.
And
okay.
That's how I viewed it.
There's a weird part in the house though where she looks at that picture of him.
Yeah, that
goes,
kind of threw me off a bit. Yeah.
I was like, wait, whose head are we in? So I wasn't honestly, I had no clue at this point either. But it becomes more and more apparent because things aren't adding up.
I think the bit where when the parents start to change ages, I think it's the dad first, isn't it?
Dad first really old, isn't he?
Really old, and he's kind of, you can tell that he's got like dementia or Alzheimer's or something.
He goes, early onset, what's it called?
Yeah,
it's like Alzheimer's.
And then there's scenes with the mum, and the mum's really ill, and she's
it's so depressing.
Fed by the boy.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I guess that's kind of her in her head trying to play things out. If she doesn't end things with Jake, then this is what's going to happen. Yeah,
okay, and
that's kind of what I was thinking about. Like, I knew that what I was seeing wasn't actually happening.
Of course, yeah.
But I thought that I'm in her head, and this is how she's playing things out.
That's interesting. But
then it really threw me off when you see the younger versions of the mum and dad, because I was like, why the fuck would she be?
Yeah, she comes into the living room with like a bag of washing, and she's just like, hello, clearing up. That's really interesting, actually. If you look carefully, she's picking up childhood toys. So it literally is going back in time at that point.
Yeah.
So, and then Lucy says, I felt like I was a cold wind blowing as time does through their house tonight. And it actually sums up a lot of what you see in the entire film. So when they get back in the car, there's a blizzard. And it's really interestingly shot, isn't it? Like, you've got so much kind of... Sometimes it looks like the snow's coming right down on top of them, like they're hardly moving. Sometimes it looks like they're racing through kind of like vortex. And it's because he's trying to capture that you have no idea how long has passed.
Yeah.
And so on the car journey on the way home, you start to realise that Jake is the janitor. Jake is the janitor that you've seen from the beginning, and he's been like... You just get these odd clips of him kind of looking after something, like a school or something.
Yeah, so I kind of guessed quite early on that...
That's him when he's older.
You keep seeing flashes of him, and I was like, okay, so this is him when he's older. Maybe this is like a flashback, or like maybe it's going to sort of crescendo to a moment, and then that's going to haunt him for his days or whatever. That's kind of what I was imagining was going to happen.
Yeah. And I think it becomes more and more apparent that that's him in the future. So they get into the car, and there's immediately... I think it slowly dawned on me, and especially the second time round, there is so much happening outside of... like, it's all on his timeline. So you see, when they go to that little ice cream stand, they get Burr, and he meets Burr, and he meets one of these girls that he's had a flashback of when he was in school, and he describes, sometimes I see these people, they're clearly like estranged, and they're pushed to the side, and I see them working at a shop or something, and you can see that the scar still stays on them from that time, like an oozing wound, he says. And then you look at this girl that's serving him, and she's clearly like a bit, what's the word? Like a bit quirky, shall we say? Yeah. And like at this point, I was really still on the horror. I was like, what's going to happen? Because there's aspects of horror, there's traits of horror, because you see scratches on the door on the basement.
Yeah, that was another thing.
And I was like, wait, so if this if we're all only in his head, and he's a creepy janitor. Is this girl captured in his basement and is trying to get out, and she's like covered in all these marks?
And they kind of foreshadow that as well, because she specifically says, what are the scratches on the door for?
Yeah.
And he says, oh, mostly the dog.
Yeah.
That bit of dialogue really stayed with me.
Right?
Because he literally said, mostly the dog.
And then she says something like a mock kind of phrase, and he says, they're trying to get out. Or something like that, and they just leave it like that, and I was really like, "Wait, what's happening?" Yeah. But actually, the second time watching it, you see him cover his sleeve up, and he's got the same marks. So it's another metaphor for saying he's still feeling that estranged feeling, the alienation from back in his day when he was growing up. His parents always say that he's just like he wasn't one of the particularly gifted children. And a lot of what's happening is that he's projecting what he would want Lucy to be like. She actually changes her name a few times.
Yeah, I did. I saw that, and she kind of at one point in the car ride back, he says Anna or something like that.
Yeah,
and she says Anna. Is that short for Annabelle? And then she's kind of wondering about that instead of, well, that's not my fucking name.
Yeah. Okay.
You're expecting her to kind of flip out.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the kicker. I've realised what's so clever about this film is that in this car ride, you are... Get rid of Lucy because she is purely a projection of what he wants a girlfriend to be. You're inside an old janitor's mind. He's fighting not only for hope or some kind of like one day I'll find the right person. There's this thing he says about he almost has like a breakdown and he says you know, age is only a number and there's someone out there for everyone. I don't know if I can believe all of that anymore. Every cloud has a silver lining, and he's getting really emotional. And you realise every time she says I'm thinking of ending things, he interrupts her. Is if that is just his psyche, his hope or his love or just wanting something more, wanting a girlfriend, for example, that she is trying to leave. Do you get what I mean? That's his sanity trying to say, I'm thinking of ending things. You should think of ending things. So therefore, it's him trying not to commit suicide. And suddenly I looked at this film and was like, that's so clever because all of the dialogue works in both
contexts.
Yes. So you got the fact that she's this perfect woman. Sometimes, like, there's this great scene where she even turns into a film critic.
Yeah.
Well, at one point she's a poet, one point she's a physicist, and then she's a film critic.
And a painter as well.
And a painter. Yeah. You realise that Jake has really lost his way because he used to paint a lot. You see in the basement, that's actually all his painting that he was showing to his parents. Then you see that there was what did he used to like doing? He used to really like singing to musicals. Lets loose all these like numbers, doesn't he? What did he like doing? There was basically he used to have like a way about him that was like full of optimism, full of hope, creativity, and slowly but surely he's watched that shrivel up during this car ride, which has been however long. We have no idea how long that's been. The first time you see Lucy actually get out of the car and the two separate for the first time is at the school. They get to the school and you finally hear Lucy say something like, how can I remember what Jake was like? That would be like remembering a mosquito bite I had 40 years ago. 40 years, she says, right?
Yeah, so they go into... So he's making a big deal out of getting rid of some trash or something like that.
The burr.
So he goes off and you don't really see him, and then she goes into the school.
Yeah.
And that's when she meets the janitor, and that's what she says to him.
Yes.
Because she's like, where is he?
Where is he?
And that's how she describes him.
So the janitor at that point is now like this is the first time he's losing that sanity. He's losing that hope, and he's realizing that it might have been about 40 years since he's last even like looked around outside of his setting, because I think it sounds to me like he's been really either depressed or mentally ill, or it's just the fact that he's hoping that something will come about, that if he keeps doing the same thing every day, one time some girl will show up and she'll be perfect and she'll appreciate everything that he knows, all of the musicals and the poems and the films, and they'll be able to chat these things through together, but it's not happened. So the whole film is a dawning on him of, oh shit, I'm old now, and I've let all this time pass me by, and I haven't met the one that he so clearly wanted to meet. He's wondering, oh, if only, what would that girl be like? What would my parents have reacted to her in what way? And so all of that stuff in the house, that was just him imagining, what if I'd taken her back? And then, at the end of the film, we see that the two have completely separated. He's lost his sanity, he's lost that hope, he's lost his love. And then, going to the school, she kind of disappears, really. Yeah. Because then they would get replaced by those two dancers, don't they?
Yeah, that whole sort of like a ballet scene goes on for...
I think there's an aspect of this film which loses its point a little bit by overdoing the point a little bit. Yeah. But the weird thing is, it didn't sound like it actually like hit you. Like there was no like epiphany moment.
Right.
But the dancers were telling the story, really, weren't they? Like,
I kind of felt like they were just telling the story of like what I kind of already gathered.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got a bit confused with the whole, with the janitor bit.
So the janitor comes along and kills Jake, which is his younger self.
Yeah.
The hopeful, aspirational one. And therefore you're left with just a janitor sweeping up in a school. So then once that's happened, there's no longer any Lucy. He's on his own in the cold, kind of wanting to end things because he's let that thought come in.
Yeah.
And there's a really interesting theory I heard, actually. The end of the film, I mean, the other part that really annoyed me was the pig. Like, it's following the pig naked through a hallway, and the pig's telling him, like, oh, don't worry, we're just, like, we all die in the end. Like, I didn't need that. I thought it was
the
overdoing
end of the film
it.
Was the old janitor guy, he's in his car, and he shuts the doors, and he just starts getting naked.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's he trying to do? And he's, you can tell he's shivering, he's really cold.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like him trying to kill himself.
Yeah. And in that scene, he walks out, doesn't he? He walks into the school. There's this grand scene of him singing to all his kind of loved ones, and he sings this really dark song. I can't remember what the musical it is.
Was it
I was going to say Cabaret, but I don't think it's Cabaret. Anyway, he then he sings this passionate song about the first verse is all like, the door creaks, and he's sat in this room and he's lonely. But then the second sequence, you think that he's going to change things.
Yeah.
But he's just more bitter in the second verse.
Yeah.
He just says, I'm going to go out and find the woman I want and take her for myself. And then he says, that's kind of it. He's just more annoyed that that nothing has changed, that he's still sat in that lonely room. So it kind of encompasses the whole film again. You said a really good point about how those faces might be ghosts, which I never thought about.
Of look. Yeah, so when he's singing and he's looking out to the people, you can tell that they've all kind of like got white makeup on their face.
Yeah,
and they just look a bit sort of ghoulish.
Yeah, they do.
And I took that as I was a bit like, okay, so he has actually died then, and this is kind of his, because it really.
This is his life flashing before his eyes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I viewed it. As like, okay, this is his life epitomised in one scene, flashing before his eyes, and it's got all his hopes, all his dreams, everything he loves, everything he cares about. It's still
that if only kind of feeling.
Yeah, that kind of feels like that all meshed together in one scene. Yeah, I didn't really like it.
I like that he kind of changes his tone. It's the young actor playing him. Like it's all playing with that agelessness. Like and he sounds like an old person at this point with the old wrinkled makeup. I thought it was a really artistic scene. And he says, like, I've only just realised, after all these years, that it is in the dizzying heights of love that we can only truly define ourselves, or something like that. And like, it shows that he really wanted to meet that person that he saw at a party once. That's all Lucy was. Lucy was just a person he saw at a party, because they tell that story like 3 times to his parents, don't they? All in different.
Yeah, it's all different things.
Yeah, and I think that's what she could be saying about the mosquito bite. He literally didn't say anything. He didn't even go over to her to ask her number, so they never met, and therefore he became this bitter guy.
So I think it's really interesting that you've kind of. So did you get that from the first time that you watched it, or the second time?
Second time.
So the second time you
one.
watched it, so you've started watching it from the janitor's perspective.
Yes.
So that to me is really interesting, because then there's a lot of things that happen.
Yeah.
Just little minute things that happen in the movie that make a lot more sense.
Yes. So you have to pay attention so much to those little dialogues.
So when they're at the parents' house,
and
Toni Collette turns into like a young version of herself, she gives the girlfriend a nightgown, and she's like, "Oh, you need to go put that downstairs in the washer for me."
Yes.
She goes downstairs, she puts it in the washer, she puts it in, and then when she takes it back out, it's these janitor clothes.
Yeah.
And they've got the R logo, which you see is on the janitor.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So that, to me, kind of says that if we're labelling the girlfriend as kind of his sanity, that's his sanity trying to pull him out of whatever he's thinking, trying to pull him out of it.
That constant daydream that has become his life. And also, it could be that maybe you want to look at it that he's actually travelled to his house. Maybe that's where he lives now.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever see him living anywhere. The janitor.
So the other bit that I think's now quite interesting is when you first see the janitor is in the first couple of minutes of the movie.
Yes, yeah.
So the girlfriend is outside in the cold and the snow, and she's kind of waving at someone in the distance.
Yeah.
And then the first shot you see of the janitor is him looking out of a window down at her doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could look at that in so many different ways now. If
Yeah.
you're looking at it as this whole movie's from that janitor's perspective, he could just be looking out of his window one day and just see a random girl and think, oh, you know, she looks pretty. She looks like this girl that I used to know.
Or like the ideal girl, or whatever that would be to him.
Do you know what I mean? He could just be reminiscing.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Or that could be him. That could be him getting in a car and going to his parents' house.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's.
It's clever the way you can interpret this in so many
definitely.
ways. So to cap off, there's this really interesting scene at the end, which isn't in the book. So it's all based off a book. He ends the film, Charlie Kaufman, with just this still shot. It's the morning after everything's transpired. You've seen the big cabaret musical moment. And now you've just got blue sky and a car covered in snow sat there. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So it's the morning after, maybe like he's died in his car, sad times. Or what's happened, because you just hear this at the very end, after the credits, the engine ticks over, just switches on. And you go, wait a second, if that means he's survived, what does that mean for everything else that's happened? It could be that maybe he's had this massive epiphany, and now he's going to go on with his day, and he's going to realise that he needs to change so much. Like, blue sky, like, you know, hope.
Yeah.
Hope is coming. Maybe it's not the end for him. Or it could be that he has tried to... This is the thing. You get a lot of mention of dementia throughout the film.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of sort of dementia.
Like his parents clearly have it. And there's a lot of talk between him and Lucy about, like, genetics and passing things down.
Yeah.
And you wonder, if he had dementia, would this mean that he had this huge epiphany, but maybe he's put the heating on before he dozed off in his car, and that was all like an episode. He's had this huge epiphany about his entire life, and now it's waking up the next day, and he's just realised, like, well, he's realised nothing. It's the same day. It's the same.
And then
the
he
whole
just goes
film.
he just goes about doing the whole film
And
again.
the whole film goes over. Like, that's clever.
It's clever, but it's quite harrowing to think
quite
about, isn't
harrowing,
it? That's quite a harrowing thought.
Yeah. Like, this guy, like, he's either been mentally unwell and... I don't know. I just thought that was so clever, just with one little motion.
Yeah, that definitely. That kind of... Yeah, that... I don't know. It doesn't leave you wanting, like, oh, let's have a second movie.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But it's just quite... It's a bit like Inception.
Yeah.
It kind of leaves you, like, with that question.
Like, wait, what?
That's never going to get answered.
Because also, like, that's the third option. It could be a different car entirely, and that's all happened exactly the way you thought it had. He has died in his car. So anyway, I would give this, honestly, like an 8.5. I'm so happy with it. 8.2. 8.2. I'm going a bit hasty, but
okay.
Love this film. What do you rate it?
Can I...
One before it you've heard me review, and one... Oh! Are you going to watch it again? What are you going to say?
I mean, with the revelation that, you know, I could kind of watch it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Potentially, but it was a bit long.
Yeah.
A bit long in the tooth for me. It was kind of like just ticks over like 2:15.
Yeah, I think it is like I said, it feels a little overdone at the end, like hitting that point home.
Yeah.
It really just, yeah, I get what you mean. Maybe like 20 minutes too long.
Yeah, something like that. So, I don't know. I'll probably go for about a 4.
4 out of 10. Brutal. So brutal. But okay.
Maybe slightly more, given this, if I was watching it from a different perspective.
Okay. Maybe if you gave it a second watch, I think it would probably go up a couple. But anyway, have you seen anything lately, Nathan?
So I watched The Devil All the Time.
Oh, with Tom Holland.
Yes. Tom Holland, R-Pats.
R-Pats, Robert Pattinson. Yeah.
Bill Skarsgård.
Oh, your fave?
Yeah. So
from It.
Really, really liked this movie.
Did you?
Yeah, loved it.
It was very dark.
How were you?
I wasn't. Honestly, dude, you can tell, right? Because I think it's more and more apparent that you have like more of like a... You enjoy the kind of horror genre more than I do, and I like the more thoughtful kind of provocative film. This was certainly provocative.
I thought it was very thoughtful.
Oh
but
my!
It was just quite dark.
It was just no. Do you know what it was, dude? I didn't like the fact that it was like Requiem for a Dream in having that like plummeting storyline, like Devil All the Time. Basically, an ungodly film. There was no good things happening throughout it.
There was a
massive spoiler there, guys.
There was a couple of good things.
Go on.
Right, if we just skip right to the end, Tom Holland is still alive.
Yeah, but what's he going to do with that? Anyway, we're skipping away too much. I don't... Yeah, okay. I almost wonder if that is a good thing that he's still alive, because now he's a really...
What, the fact that he's just had to live with like everything that's happened?
All the pain, and all the fact that he's like... And he's probably on the run for murder, so... Is that a life worth living? I don't know.
I think so.
At least it's still alive. Alright, we've got one silver lining.
So I think when you talk about this movie, you've really got to talk about Robert Pattinson.
Oh, he's so good, isn't it? Yeah.
And he's really only sort of one of the side quests of this movie.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
But he's great in this movie. I love all the interweaving stories. That's really like a massive pro for this movie. Massive
slowly interlocked, don't they?
So you've got so many different characters. So you've got Tom Holland and sort of his family background. Yeah. Then you've got his stepsister. Then you've got Robert Pattinson's sort of preacher character.
Oh yeah.
You've got these two killers that they're going up and down highways picking up boys to kill.
Joel, the bad guy, is such a horrible bad guy.
And then you've also got the officer. Sheriff of the town.
Yeah, who is the actor?
Sebastian Stan.
That's it. Yeah.
So the Bucky from all the
Bucky. I knew I recognised him. Yeah.
But yeah. So it's just quite good, and I love these movies where you see a couple of little sort of story snippets, and you're like, okay, well, how are they all going to interweave?
Yes.
Because they're not going to all interweave.
Surely not.
But it's all really summed up really cleverly in the first shot. You see a map, and there's a narrator. And he's talking about these two different towns and how far away they are and how you get there and everything.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm paraphrasing, but it's all to do with basically how the two towns would become intertwined together, even though they're so far apart. And that's really, really interesting because it is just what happens.
Yeah.
So, and all of these characters just intertwined together, and I love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought... A big part of it I liked was the war scenes at the beginning.
Some of that's quite harrowing. So that's all to do with Bill Skarsgård and his character as the father. What he goes through, and that kind of crescendos with him killing himself.
God, wasn't it depressing?
It's really, really powerful stuff.
See, I don't know. I came out of it just like I wouldn't want to watch that again because it was so depressing.
I'd happily watch it again.
What is it that makes you want to watch it again?
Just interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I think it's more to do with the stories, and like with you've picked up with what's it called?
I'm thinking of
anything. Yeah. So like what you've picked up with that, but, if you've watched it a second time round, there's so much more that you can pick up story wise.
Right. Okay.
I think if I were to watch this again, I'd be able to pick up a few more things that I didn't notice last time.
You'd probably notice more about our Pats as well, like just that from the word go, he's a bad guy, like for sure. Yeah,
so the first time you meet him, the scene that you meet him in is there's this sort of big, I want to say banquet. That's, I don't know. It's kind of like a dinner plate. Bring a dinner plate.
Oh yeah.
thing to do with
For
the
the church, yeah.
But it's all to do with him being there, so it's kind of him being welcomed into the community there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Arvin Russell, who's Tom Holland, his grandmother, she's sort of thinking about trying to make something, you know, big and grandiose for this guy. He's like, no, don't worry, like, just cook this dish. You know, you're really, really good at it. Everybody loves it. It tastes really nice.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, but I can't, you know. And she's talking about basically taking a peasant dish, as she sees it, in chicken livers.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, no, don't worry, just do them. Like, they're really, really nice. So she's like, okay, fine, I'll do that. So she takes that to, you know, to this little party.
Yeah.
And the first scene you see of Robert Pattinson is them saying hello to him, and he dips 3 fingers straight into this dish of like all the sort of juice and blood and stuff, and he just disgustingly puts them into his mouth, and then he goes off and he tells this massive sermon.
Yeah.
And the base, you know, basically the crux of it, what he's trying to get at, is the old. I'm pretty sure it'd be in the Old Testament, the little Bible story of you know, people giving money to the church. And there's this little old lady, and she gives like a penny or something to the church.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all she can afford. Where there's another guy that gives, you know, thousands upon thousands of riches.
But actually, that was nothing to him.
But that was nothing to him. That was probably like 1% of his wealth.
Yeah.
That he's given to the church. Whereas this little old lady, she's given
but
100%.
But in saying that sermon, he's picking on her.
Yeah, he's picking on that character.
On Tom Holland's mum. Yeah.
He's basically saying like, well, this is shit.
Yeah.
But so what he turns around and says is, for all of you, I will eat this, and you can have all of these delicious foods. And it's brilliant. Like, you can tell from just straight away from that scene, like, he's a dick.
Yes.
And as soon as that scene finishes, you cut to Tom Holland being in the car with his sister and with his grandmother.
Yeah.
And it's literally like, well, he's a fucking dick, isn't he? That's kind of the premise.
That's the premise.
And he specifically says, he's worse than the people that you hear about on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, so, and that obviously links to when you're hearing about the killers,
of course,
on the highway. So
that's really clever. I didn't know that.
So those are the kind of things that I'm saying that, like, if I watch the movie again, I'd love to pick up on.
Because I wonder now if there are transitions that also relate to that. Like maybe you hear a radio and it goes over to the
potentially. I mean, there was nothing that I kind of picked out that was, you know.
We have to talk about the brutality of the scenes with the couple, because so they're almost like highwaymen in a certain regard. Like they literally
they're entrapping young gentlemen. So the what did you say his name is? Joel, that was it. I want to say Jerry. So Joel's obviously got a bit of a voyeur fetish.
Yeah.
And he likes seeing his girlfriend, and then later on his wife, you know, getting with these young guys, and then killing them.
Oh, and the scenes were so.
And he's taking photos as he does it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Bad. You see.
I don't know if this is based off of like a.
I can't remember the actor's name, but it's Dursley from Harry Potter.
How weird was it seeing him in something? Dudley.
His character.
Dudley Dursley is now a Hollywood actor.
He's brilliant.
He's made it, and
he was really good. He plays like a weird pastor as well.
Yeah, he was so scary, and you knew he was a. There's another big scene, like just the brutality of him stabbing his wife was absolutely
so
horrendous.
Tom Holland's stepsister is Dudley's daughter, and he goes for a little car ride with himself, the mum, and his friend in the back seat.
Yeah,
he's wheelchair bound, so which is why he's always with them. So, and he's kind of really got this massive god complex. He's just been locked in a cupboard for a week or so, and he's gone crazy.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he's spoken to God, and he knows what needs to be done.
Yeah. Again, the devil all the time coming through, and that the worst part of people following God is that theme throughout, isn't it? Praying, and always God does the opposite of what they want. It's such a strange idea.
And then he goes for a little walk, and you hear him say to her, he just turns around and says, "This is a really good spot, isn't it?" And she's like, "Yeah, it is." And then they they sit down, and it's like they're going to have a picnic.
Yeah.
And then he just jabs her with a screwdriver.
Oh, it's so horrible. Through the neck.
But she falls to the floor and she's bleeding and stuff. And then he's like, I've done it, God. Now give me the power.
Oh,
and he's trying to fucking
it goes on for
resurrect
such
her.
a long time of just him going, let her be, let her come alive. Why haven't
And
you...
he's like, resurrect,
resurrect,
resurrect.
Oh my God, dude, this film was such a torture to watch. I'm squeamish, I guess.
There's so many scenes like that in the movie. Like we could pick on that. We can pick on Tom Holland's dog getting killed. And getting put up in a crucifix. Oh, it's mad.
His dad as well. Like, I can't remember what. Oh, the whole crucifix beginning part as well with the war scene. I mean, Jesus.
See, there's a lot of
foreshadowing. Yeah, foreshadowing for the harrowing you're about to witness.
But yeah, if you just pick on the title itself, you are right. It's pretty much the worst parts of people.
Yeah.
The devil all the time.
Yeah.
You know, when Tom Holland is a bit younger, he sees his dad getting offended by some guys because they saw him out praying, and then they started taking a piss out of him.
Yeah.
And they were saying what they were going to do to his wife while he was out here praying.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because he kind of says to his son, "No, you're on God's time.
Eyes forward.
Eyes forward. You pray.
Yeah.
You're on God's time. We'll deal with that later."
Yeah.
And then you see him deal with that later.
He certainly
so he takes
deals
the
with
ball out
it.
in the
My
car
God.
with the dog. And they come across these two guys again, and the guy just says to his son, "Stay in the car." He gets out of the car and he just absolutely annihilates these two
He
guys.
drops the bonnet on that guy's head. You're like, oh,
no, that's Tom Holland later on.
Oh, was it? Sorry, yeah.
So then in a scene
it mirrors it.
Yeah, it mirrors it completely.
Yeah.
Tom Holland sees that his sister's getting bullied by three guys. They put like a bag over her head and said, "Oh, this is the only way that I'd have sex with you."
Yeah.
And he tries to take all three of them on at once, obviously, because there's three of them. But,
yeah.
You know, he's not going to do it. And then he finally realises, well, I can't beat you all at once, but maybe I can pick you off. And then, in a scene that's really eerily reminiscent of his father, he then beats the crap out of all of them individually, putting bags over their head. And this is really bad one where he puts the bag over and you see like the blood coming through the bag and onto his knuckles.
Thinking about it now, I was thinking about that theme throughout of praying to a God that doesn't exist. It's also the fact that it's like using God for an excuse to do some awful things, right? So you've also got that theme especially with Robert Pattinson. You also have it with Dudley. He's got that excuse that this is all for religion. But then there's also the fact that none of them are actually behaving like good Christians, because I was just thinking, none of them turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
They're supposed to turn the other cheek, and every character in this gets revenge. Maybe it's because of something like in their past, like because their dad is like, I don't know, there's something that they haven't got over. Or it's the fact that someone actually has wrong done them, and they just go out and they hurt each other.
Yeah.
So there's this also feeling of like, just never really, behaving like a devil in the name of God, which I think it comes through really strongly. There's never a case of, would you say the ending has like a case of a theme of redemption as such, or is it more of just I don't think you do. I don't think there's this feeling of like, thank God he made it through.
I guess for me it's just I'd kind of view it as the life and times of Arvin Russell.
Yeah.
That's what I'd call the movie.
Yeah.
But so you see him grow up, and he's grown up in really, really hard times. His mum dies, she's poorly. His dad kills himself. His dad kills his dog.
Yeah.
He's going to live with his grandparents, and then his stepsister, she gets coerced into sleeping with this parishioner
the new
guy.
preacher, new preacher in town with good looks.
She falls pregnant, and then she then gets coerced into killing herself. And then you find out through a voiceover that she didn't actually mean to.
Oh, that's that adds something. Like, it's almost like, why would you want to add to the torture that is watching this film? But the narrator comes in every now and again, and makes whatever it is you're watching just that little bit harder to watch, because he says something like with the girl killing herself. He goes, at that point she realised that she didn't want to do this.
And then she tries to undo the noose, and then she kind of trips over a bit, and then that's it.
I suppose that's the devil coming through, and like that chants, like a wind blowing through chants, but the devil is there all the time, present in every scene, in every conversation, in the characters that you meet where you think, oh, he seems nice, Dudley Dursley, like he's just like a Jack the Lad, isn't he? Nope, that's the devil. Everyone in this is the devil, including Tom Holland, because he's there just. So I think killing people.
So I think for him, it's slowly building up. So with his, you kind of see the end result with his dad.
Yeah.
You just see him being the devil, basically.
Yeah.
Being evil, and then with Tom Holland, it kind of builds up throughout his life. So he's seen all these bad things happen in his childhood, and then his sister's getting bullied. He's got to help her out, and then his sister dies, and that for me is kind of the trigger.
Yeah.
That's when he switches. Because
he's been trying not to let the devil in.
He then goes to the church to speak to Robert Pattinson, and he kind of says to him like, "Oh, I need to speak with you," and he's telling him all these things. He's come for confession.
Yeah,
and he's telling him all these things, and then slowly but surely you're realizing that Tom Holland's not talking about himself. He's talking about Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
And Robert Pattinson figures it out, and he's like, "What?" And obviously he just offs him, and then from then on, he has to leave the town. He decides he wants to go back home. You're not really sure why, but he decides that it's time for him to try and go back home.
Yeah.
To the house he lived with his parents.
Yeah.
And then he comes across the highwaymen.
Oh, what an ending! Such a great ending.
That's brilliant. Like it's it's a really, really good character.
At least they get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
At least of all the people in this, you're like, what's going to happen to these? Are they just going to keep going along?
Yeah.
And imagine the ending if they do just go off into the distance, just having killed all these young men.
But I mean, I think what he's trying to do is finally bury his dog.
Yeah.
That's because you hear it really, really early on when he's younger.
Yeah.
He says to his dog as he's dying, he says
I'll bury
to him,
you properly one time.
I'm gonna bury you properly like we did with Mum.
Yeah.
And you never see him do it, and then obviously he goes back there. He's got the bones in a bag.
Yeah.
He takes the bones out and puts them in that little sort of makeshift church that his dad made to bury the dog.
So maybe that would give him some redemption in some sense.
Not redemption, but kind of some sort of
solace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That everything that he's done
is worth it.
Yeah, kind of.
I wonder. I forget that. Yeah, that's a good point actually.
But yeah, and then he gets, after he's done with all the killing and everything like that, and he get rid of his gun as well. I'm sure he.
Maybe he does. Yeah,
I think he buries the gun with the bones.
Yeah.
And then
he's done with that life.
He goes off and he goes into a VW camper with a hippie man.
Yeah, okay, it is a good ending. It's not a bad ending.
No,
Tom Holland is alive, and he's maybe not going to be the same person that having killed these people. Maybe he won't be run off by the cops everywhere.
Honestly, I was really, really impressed by him. And if you only see him in Spider-Man, you think, oh, can he pull something quite serious?
I mean, the accent was constant.
Can he kill people? Is he going to be good? It's like, yeah, he's fucking great in this movie.
Good for the stunts as well. I mean, there was a couple of scenes where he was being physical. I did think. I mean, he's clearly got training in this stuff. It's very obvious. But yeah, no, he pulled it off in the accent and everything. Robert Pattinson was great. And
Out of 10.
Would you call it a horror film?
Nah, thriller.
Nah, I was just thinking in the scene where Robert Pattinson is, there's no need for Tom Holland's character to say everything he does there. You could just kill him. But it's like the drawn outness of a horror film, where also he's saying these vile things about touching kids, which do you remember when people saw they were like, who in their right mind writes something like this? That's what I thought at that point. I was like, you don't need to be saying this, but you want to convey that it's like a real nasty, gritty film. So I would call it a horror.
Nah, thriller for me.
So that's it. I'll never forget the stabbing scene. It was just the screwdriver through the neck. Why did it have to be so horribly violent? It was such a nasty way of doing it. Anyway, out of 10, I would give it. I would probably get dragged to see it again, but I wouldn't go out of my way. I would give it maybe like a 5.8, something like that.
Why are we doing points? You can have a 0.5 and that's it. Like,
are we only doing 0.5?
Yeah, you don't do
New rule, guys.
0.002.
Okay, round up to 6.
Okay, that's fine.
You're happy with that? What did you give it?
8.
8 out of 10?
8 out of 10, 100%.
Still think you're a bit harsh with I'm thinking of many things, but okay.
I'm definitely not.
Why did I go this before? You'd be sad.
I'd be
livid.
I would be livid.
You'd be ready to kill me with a screwdriver.
I would do it. And I would not.
Resurrect!
No, but I think...
Takeaway is that Dudley Dursley is now a verified actor that we'll probably see it. He also has the strangest face I've ever seen. He looks like a character from, like... Do you know who he looks like? He looks like the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Do you remember? Which is kind of relevant to this film. Anyway, I digress. Shall we...
8 out of 10. It's brilliant. Go out of your way and watch it.
Yes. Okay. So we've got Social Dilemma. Make sure you watch that. I'm thinking of other things. If you're into the kind of character study, psyche, drama, fuck off, Nathan. Or you've got Devil All the Time with Tom Holland. Good film. Not for the faint-hearted. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Alright. Shall we finish up?
Yeah.
Good chat. You've been listening to Colour Me Intrigued.
Thank you.
Please
Thank you for listening.
Listen to us on Spotify. Nathan's going to definitely get this out there as soon as possible. And on YouTube. But don't go on social media other than that. Alright, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.